Now, unless I'm terribly mistaken, I believe we are live. So welcome everybody, wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, night, midday. Welcome. Massive exciting day for us. And I know we've got a heap of really awesome things lined up for the show. So I'm not going to rabbit on too much because I know we want to get straight into it. So we've got COO Matthew here, and we've got the founder Kevin here as well to go over all the fun stuff we have for our liquidity bootstrap launch. So I'll just pass straight over. Matthew, do you want to give us a quick overview?
Yeah, look, it's an exciting day. The Liquidity Bootstrap program is open. The pools are open. We did announce it on the Discord a little bit earlier. We've already seen people come into the Liquidity Bootstrap, and that's going to provide some, crucial liquidity for the cross-chain swaps to bring in more users that can do more swaps cross-chain. So we're going to go through the Liquidity Bootstrap. Kevin's going to take us through it in some detail, which is really good, some demonstration and stuff like that, I think, which is great for the community members as well. And it's a really first showcase for the multi-chain balancer pool technology, right? The ability of the multi-chain balancer pool. On a side note, I think I took some of the community members' advice and I got myself a proper webcam with microphone. So I think there was a few mentioned. I think Too Crispy, and a few others mentioned it. I listened to you. I appreciate it, and let's hope you can hear me a lot better. But look, without further ado, exciting day for us, and I'll hand it over to Kevin to take us through
it. Yeah. Thanks for that. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the live stream, whatever version this is. But we're going to have some fun today, right? First of all, thank you to the community members, because the moment we, as you all know, that we have released or launched the multi-chain balancer pool, the community has been kind enough to go in there and provide the liquidity, and it excites me. It excites me because the multi-chain balancer pool will enable the swaps to be out there. And the adoption that we are all after is so important, because without demonstrating this to each and every individual out there who actually uses a swap, right, $100 billion market, right, I don't know what else is there to do with technology. So thank you to everyone who has contributed, and we're going to make this happen. But anyways, coming back to the multi-chain balancer pool. So what we'll do is we'll go through, what is a multi-chain balancer pool, what are the benefits of it, how it works. I did see a lot of comments from the community members that the process on how it works, when we deep dive into that, it gives more, clarity in terms of the technology as well. So we'll go through that. We'll actually even go through the live demonstration, right? And once we go through the live demonstration, you'll see how easy we have made. We have learned from the mistakes that we made, the errors that you are facing, and we have applied those, fixes. And we'll answer any questions if you may have. Yeah. So how about I bring up my whiteboard and we get to it? Yeah.
it wouldn't be a Streamyard without Kevin's whiteboard.
Yeah, it has to be there, and I'll be sharing the link as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
That's perfect. Kevin, you can share it with Matthew, then you can break it down for me, and we can continue down the line until everybody knows what we're talking about.
Good. Okay. All right. So you guys can see the whiteboard? Yeah?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So I'm sorry, I've got a smaller screen today. Okay. All right. So we'll go through what is a multi-chain balancer pool. We'll go through the benefits, how it works. We'll do the demonstration as well, and we'll see the roadmap, right? All right. Okay. So what is a multi-chain balancer pool, right? First of all, the multi-chain balancer pool provides cross-chain pool composition, meaning it aggregates the assets across the chains, and it exhibits or provides better returns on staking, seamless swaps, and an efficient network of transacting with the total value locked. So we will also see that the current state of the total value locked on multiple different protocols, how inefficient they are, and how does the multi-chain increase that efficiency, right? Now, what are the benefits though, right? So we touched upon a few, but what are the benefits of this? Number one, increased liquidity, right? Now, think of it as, you've got your index funds, right? You've got S&P 500, you've got index funds. Now, these index funds comprise of a lot of different categories of companies that come together, and that is what makes it, a unique product in terms of how someone can, deposit certain, tokens or certain dollars into it, and on a long-term basis, right? It has proven to do well. Now, the problem in Web3 is that it is scattered all over the place, and if you see the top, composition, like top companies comprise of like 80% of the value of that single pool, right, or that single network. Now, if there is any disturbance in that network, the whole pool or the whole network faces, inefficiency in terms of the capital deployed, right? So, number one, it increases the liquidity across the protocols, but at the same time, it allows us to access them in a way that we would access index funds. Cross-chain interoperability. We couldn't go on without this. And the best way to put this is, I believe that, in the future, not a single protocol is going to take over everything, right? But at the same time, there are going to be the benefits of each and every protocol that we got to have. Now, today we see that as, the tokens or the native coins, but there is so much more to it that, we still do not see. So cross-chain interoperability into the multi-chain balancer pool allows you to seamlessly transfer assets, but at the same time, it opens up these future avenues to make sure that exchange of, value, can be done, across different sets of products. Broader asset availability, of course, we've seen different type of pools can be created, and we are excited to see what other pools come up as well. But different types of pools allow you to create these, great DeFi passive income opportunities that we have never seen before. Of course, decentralization and security. Now, if you went to, let's say, if you took the concept of the multi-chain balancer pool and fixed it on Arbitrum, for example, the problem is that because there are so many bridges you would have to build, you can't actually sync the transactions. And if you cannot sync the transactions, you will have to create a centralized system to do that. So a multi-chain balancer pool in Xtalk allows for decentralization and security as well. Cost efficiency, 100%. Later down the line, we'll see the cost that it actually takes on L1X EVM as well. But it is pretty cost efficient to do it, with Xtalk. But at the same time, cost efficiency also comes down to the fact that if I want to swap my token out, which I already have in a pool, I don't have to bridge that token back, right? So you have one single transaction that you do. And of course, a simplified user experience. A lot of people in the community have mentioned that the L1X app is great. I take complete, responsibility for that on the design side as well. But I'm happy to know that people are loving it. Now, in order to do this, right, in order to actually make this happen, there are a lot of technical and operational challenges that we have solved through Xtalk, right? It includes cross-chain communication, the smart contract compatibility, including the mechanism where we need to make sure that the signatures or the ability to actually transfer or prove ownership is maintained. Scaling it is a big thing, right? Without that, there's not going to be any adoption. And security, right? Security comes while you're trying to scale it as well. So there are various levels of security that has to be in there. So we have addressed these limitations through Xtalk, right? And we have used the same swap engine that we built for the swaps in the multi-chain balancer pool, right? Now, how does it actually even work, right? The famous flowchart, right? And we'll share this link as well. But this time I have come up with numbers, So you know exactly how do you need to follow this flowchart, right? Now, let's just walk through this, because the next 10 to 15 minutes, if we spend on this, it's a great investment for us as a community, right? So that we understand what it even takes to build something like this, and how others who are trying to build something like this, how much time they're going to take if they're going to do it as well. All right. You deposited $100 worth of USDC, right, in the pool. So many of you have gone in and deposited. But before that, you have a preview button. When you click that button, it goes in to the L1X EVM instance, and it tries to calculate what are the number of BPT coins I'm going to receive, and also what is the price impact, right? So this is a call that we are making to L1X EVM. Now, once you receive that, you said, all right, add liquidity. You went in, and on the client chain, you added liquidity, right? Number two. Once the transaction is confirmed, which is it is submitted, right? You hit the submit button. After that, the listener node listens to that information. All right, this information has been processed. And this includes information like the pool ID, the number of BPT tokens, the price impact, the L1X bonus you're going to receive. That information is then sent into the L1X VM infrastructure, right? So it first interacted with L1X EVM, and now it's interacting with L1X VM, where you are submitting a transaction through the listener node. The L1X VM acts as, also has a manager, as we saw previously as well, where it first goes and registers you. So it says, all right, this guy has transferred, this guy or girl has transferred X coins. This is the pool ID. This is the time, all the information it needs. After that, it detects the transaction type. Now it knows that this is a join pool function of the balancer. It creates that specific transaction for you, and then it makes a cross contract call, cross VM call, meaning the balancer is deployed on L1X EVM. So for the L1X VM to actually tell the balancer to go and add the liquidity for you and assign you those BPT tokens, the L1X VM has to go through the route of first deciding what exactly do you want to do. And once you join, the L1X EVM processes the transaction. And after the transaction is processed, it gives you those BPT tokens. But when it shows you those BPT tokens, before that, it goes in and again registers into the contract, saying that, yes, this person has actually been issued the BPT tokens, right? So in this case, when you see those results after hitting the submit button and you see the rewards, it may take a few seconds to reflect back. And the reason it's taking a few seconds to reflect back is because from number 5 until number 9, this is the whole process it has to follow. So in less than 5 seconds, more than 5 steps are actually completed. And we can only do that because the way we have built the interaction between L1X VM and EVM is built in such a way that there is no spills. So in a bridge, you see a lot of contracts trying to do each other's job. In this, the job is very specific. You are not meant to do X, you are not meant to do Y. And that can be reflected with the fact that there is a register, there is a manager, and there is someone who sends back information from L1X EVM to VM as well.
And so, Kevin, just to jump in here, so the virtual machine, basically, smart contracts interact with the virtual machine. Now, why do we have an L1X VM and an L1X EVM?
Good point. Now, there are a couple of reasons, but I think one of the reason, is the balancer contracts are tried and tested, right? And we don't want to create a new type of an automated market making algorithm, not yet, right? We have it in work, but not yet. And those contracts are built in Solidity. That's why we have L1X EVM executing that and not L1X VM. But instead of going to L1X EVM and doing everything over there, Xtalk, which is going to actually interact with this register to make sure that swaps can be successful, is executing on L1X VM. So that is why this register acts as the source of truth, not only for the join pool and exit pool, but also for the swap. So the swap doesn't have to go back to EVM. It only takes the L1X VM for its execution.
Okay, great. So basically, the L1X EVM is there for the system to be able to operate if it's interacting with Solidity contracts. But the L1X VM really is that core kind of execution translator in that unique translator part when you're going cross-chain.
That's right. That's right. And also to understand that, EVM is great. Like, they've done a great job. But if you ever used an Android device before 2011, you'll know how slow it is, right? And the reason for that is EVM and Android before 2011 were built on stack-based operating system. So it's like you go line by line, pull and push, you go line by line. But L1X VM is based on register. Android after 2011 moved to a register-based system and it was faster. Now, what's the difference? The difference is before you go and execute something, the register already knows the location of things. And the size is bigger, the memory is going to be more, but the execution is faster. So that's why Solidity bytecodes will be less in size versus L1X VM bytecode or Near protocol or Solana protocol's bytecode will be larger in size. But they have optimized their storage. So that's how the trade-off benefits us having L1X VM as a register. Yeah, great. Right. Okay. Before we move on to the roadmap and we ask any questions, how about we actually do something? How about we actually go through the transactions, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Let me stop my screen share and share it again. Awesome. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. So we'll do some transaction. We'll see the BPT tokens. We'll see with MetaMask, right? But before that, just walking you through the screen. We currently have, let me refresh. All right. So the pool deposits are coming through. We currently have 4 pools in there, right? Ethereum, Binance as the network, USDC, USDT as the token. They are paired with L1X, right? Now, if you click on any pool, you'll get this pool composition, right? Where you have the rewards ratio on the daily basis, the pool value. So right now it's the single day. So when we hit the next day, it will show you the next day graph as well, the increment and the rewards. Now, because I have not joined this pool, I can't see my total rewards from that pool. But if I click the other pool, which I joined, I can see my total rewards that I'm going to receive over time. This is the L1X bonus that I'm going to receive over time, with the deposits that I have actually made, right? And these will be airdropped to your wallet straight away. So you can see that on a daily basis. Now, before we go to view transaction, let's actually see my rewards, right? Over here, you will see your rewards where your bonus L1X coins will be visible here. It's a small indicator in the next 12 hours how much you're going to get. The BPT tokens as a whole. So what is your complete number of BPT tokens, right? Now, you may see a mismatch over here between the BPT received and the BPT tokens here. The reason is because I tested with this wallet before the deployment, right? So after the deployment, and the reason I wanted to show this is because when we deployed this as a new contract, this is the number of BPT tokens you will see. That means we are not receiving this from a database. This is coming straight from the contract, right? because if it was the database, it would be the same, right? So new contracts are there. So you know that whatever numbers you see, it's actually coming from the contract, right? This number. Now, if you want to learn more, you can click on learn more, go through the pools over here, right? I won't bore you to that. All housekeeping stuff, you can do it yourself. All right. Now, actually, let's deposit something, right? Let's deposit into a pool that actually haven't participated yet. Now, let me select Finance USDT, right? All right. Now, if you see, I only have 200 USDT, right? So this preview is not going to work for me because I don't even have that balance. But if I reduce it down to 100, it will work. Yeah. And of course, these are the bonus coins that you are going to receive based on this deposit. L1X bonus coins. You preview. When you actually hit this preview, as I mentioned previously, it is going through the first step, which is it's going to L1X EVM, fetching that information and bringing it back to you. You add the liquidity, right? Now, when you try to add the liquidity here, let's say go in next and approve. This is still on your client chain, right? So any errors that happen here, it's still not relevant to the L1X protocol. Now, of course, as an application, we need to make sure that the RPC endpoints, they work, the transactions are actually successful. But these kind of transactions can be slow at times because these are on BSC network, it's on on Ethereum, right? So just to keep that in mind. So this is not L1X, this is the client chain. That's why it's slow. I hope you guys like the new feature that we have added for submit and approval with the assist desk.
Yeah, it looks like the assist desk now is kind of also like talking about if you come to a certain point where there's an error or there needs to be some action taking, it's kind of helping you through that, right?
Yeah, because what we have done actually is I went through each and every errors that a user could receive and I tied it up to the assist desk, right? So it smartly kind of detects the errors and it will be more, it will understand it more in the coming time. So I've taken the error and I've tried to kind of create like a human language around it in a way where it's very simple. It's like a dictionary, right? There's no AI in it. It's a human dictionary, right? 10 of them are there. It's nothing innovative, but at least it helps the user, right, to understand what is going on. Now, if you see, I go to my transaction, right, and my pool deposit for USDT is 100 over here, right? And this is the BPD that I received. Now, what if you want to check the transaction hash, right? All you need to do is go to view transaction and you will see your liquidity over here. The L1X bonus is 0 because you haven't received anything yet for that particular deposit. So whenever it receives it, it will keep updating that, right? Click on this Explorer icon here. And this takes you to the transaction hash. So in the Explorer itself, you have a balancer section, right? And you have your L1X global transaction ID registered here. So if any of you have done a transaction and you face any problem, we have a team right now that's going to attend to your tickets one by one. But do not worry, because if you have done the transaction, our listener node will catch it, right? So it may take a few minutes for a reattempt, but nothing is lost because this global transaction ID is also going to be visible in your transaction when you do it. So we know it's you, right? All right. Now,
and just
yeah.
Also, sorry to jump in, but so basically the rewards at the end of every 24-hour window, the rewards are airdropped into the rewards account on the screen, so they can see the rewards accruing every 24 hours. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So this is like a live widget that we made it, but if you don't want to come back over here, we have a solution for you as well. Now, before I jump into the more interesting part, let me show you with the X wallet first, right? we have pushed the X wallet to the Google store. It may take a few hours to approve. We have done that yesterday. It may take a few hours to approve. We will let you know once it comes through, so you can update your wallet as well. Now, if I go in my wallet, okay, so I transacted and I should receive those BPT tokens, right, in my account. So what you do is, this is the account that I had, right? Can't you see my X wallet?
No, only the L1X app screen.
It might be the sharing window, right?
Yeah, I'll share the whole screen. I apologize if you see any notifications coming along, but I'll share the whole screen. Yeah. Okay, now you can see the whole screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Okay, now, can you see the X wallet?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, if you see this address over here, right? This is the same address that I just did a transaction with, and I can show you that by going here. So you see this address, right? It is the same address. So if I go into my wallet and I click on this account over here, what we have implemented is version 2, which is, if you click on this version 2 here, you should see all your assets. So you see your assets here? Right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, what will happen is, once you have these tokens that you get, right, these assets will pop up in your account over here in the version 2, right? Now, give it a little while if you have done a transaction for it to sync, right? But let me refresh and see if there are any changes. Awesome. Okay. So these are your BPT tokens where you can click them and you can send them to anyone you wanted. All right. Now, as I did the transaction over there, you should be able to see this. Okay. So if I click and let me transfer it from one account to the other, right? Let me go and see the other one. Right. Okay. That's my BPT 100. All right. I'm going to send it into this account, right? And we'll check that. So let me copy this. As you see, I have BSC, USDC, only 4 of them, right? I will go back. I will go back here. Go here. Okay. Let's say I say 5. I try to send. Just a sec, let me just see. All right, let me try with this. Okay, I think we're facing a problem. Anyways, let's come back to this in a while. I think the network must be facing some issues.
Gotta love live demonstrations, don't you?
Yeah. I think it's good. At least we can solve it, as soon as it keeps coming. But should actually have transferred across. But anyways, let's try it with something else, right? All right. Anyways, let's move on. We'll come back to that. Now, if you see, all right. Jeez, man. what we have done is, in MetaMask, we have created a way where you can actually get your L1X network, and you can use your L1X BPT tokens straight from your MetaMask as well. Now, we are working towards the configuration, right? But please be aware that it's going to be available, but MetaMask is slow, right? We are working with their documentation to make sure that it actually works. But let me show you something. Okay. All right. So if you see this 882 account, let me move it to the new one. All right. If you go into your settings and your networks, we have the ability now to actually configure L1X EVM with the MetaMask directly. So you must have this in your RPC URL as well in the documentation, right? All you need to do is you can add a network over here, select add a network manually, and you can add all that information over here, which is already available to you in the document. Now, when you take that and you add it up, we will show you this information over here, right? Now, these tokens, as you see, the L1X coins in there, right? These are not L1X EVM version of the coins. These are native L1X coins. So what we have done is we have actually configured the ability for you to have your native L1X coins in MetaMask. So you don't have to go to the X wallet if you did not have to, or if you did not want to.
I think that's massive, right? Because now I can see all my native L1X tokens in my MetaMask wallet, and I can connect. I can link in the L1X ecosystem into my network onto my MetaMask wallet. So now I can hold it there. And this is obviously I can see all the L1X native coins. I can see, and so I think in terms of the user experience, those already have MetaMask. I think this is great. Now yeah. I can actually buy the L1X coin and then automatic with my MetaMask and see it in my MetaMask.
That's right. That's right. So I think what this actually allows us to do is that these BPT tokens that you are receiving, right, it is all there into an address, right? So if I just show it to you, just a second. Yes, okay. Now I've got the L1X BSC. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So I've got my L1X BSC USDT and L1X BSC USDC. If I, let's say, had the BPT tokens that I actually invested in Ethereum, right? The addresses are given to you. I would go there, import my contact. By doing this, it will recognize which token it is, right? You click next and you import, right? So if I wanted to, I can go and check it on any other network that I've got. So it works seamlessly. So if I have this, so I've got 79 over here as well, right? So with the account that I went to. Now, if you wanted to transfer through, this transfer of the BPT tokens is actually using the same infrastructure, right? Now, if there are any hiccups coming through this, we are working with the MetaMask documentation to make that happen. But in less than 24 hours, you should be able to use your BPT tokens to transfer even from MetaMask, right? Let me try to send it across. So let's say 882, we don't have. All right, let's say 3355. BSC USDT is available over here. I've got 59 of them. And if I go here, okay, let me actually send it across to this address. Let's copy that. Let's go here. Send. No, I think. Let me try again. No, I think we're facing some issues with the network because even the token loading is going on slow. All right. Anyways, we'll fix this part. All good.
Might be a good maybe another on the next week's AMA. We do the whole demonstration with the MetaMask as well.
Yeah, we can do it with the MetaMask, but MetaMask is like, we've sent them an email to get us on their list, but they're slow. But anyways, I think we'll sort it out. We don't need MetaMask's approval to do the BPT tokens anyways, but if we have their approval, we will be on the MetaMask network list where you can just add it up automatically, right? I think the community members are going in and jamming through it because even the networks are gone slow. All good. We'll have a look. I think it's time to increase more nodes on the network. Right. Okay. All good. Let's see. Okay. All right. Anyways, we'll have a look why the network is down, right? But the transactions are going through. The wallet SDK is configured to a different network. We'll see what's going on, right? But as you see, from the preview onwards, until you receive those BPT tokens in your wallet, you don't need the X wallet now if you don't want to. The same account that you have, which you use to deposit the stable coins into the pool, use the same account to actually import the L1X network, and you will immediately be able to see your tokens in there, right? If you face any problems while sending the tokens like I just did, right, raise a ticket after 24 hours and we will look into it. But please give it probably around 24 to 48 hours to sync this thing through because it was just completed 2 days ago, right? Okay, now going back to the roadmap. Let's go back to it. This month, we have actually released 4 pools, right, which will be used for the liquidity. Your tokens, the BPT tokens, will be tradable itself this month, and the daily emission of L1X coins will also be available. So on a 20-hour basis, you'll get your coins. What is there for March, right? Now, this was something that, considering the amount of resources we had and the available swaps that we can do with the resources or the liquidity that is actually coming through. The first one is, of course, we will turn the swaps on. So from the March onwards, all the liquidity that you are actually depositing will be redirected towards swaps. So the swaps can be pushed in those tokens. We're also going to allow third-party providers to build their own liquidity pools, right? So the LP tokens or their liquidity pools. So for example, I think one of the things that we were talking about today is the liquid staking derivatives, right? LSD tokens to be paid. So they will be able to add it straight away as well into the same place, or they can configure their own website like the L1X guys want to do it. They will be able to configure their own pools as well with that. The other interesting feature that's coming in is the Bitcoin and Solana integration into the liquidity pools, right? We already have Solana integrated with Xtalk. So this is where we can use the Solana infrastructure with Xtalk directly into the balancer pool, right? And maybe if required, we can come up with any other stable pools and any other network as well. So maybe USDC, Polygon, USDT, Polygon. But they, of course, they're not going to have that reward structure that we currently have. So that's the roadmap for the month of March.
And I know we were talking about like the potential now with the balancer pool, multi-chain balancer pool, to create some really interesting liquidity pairs and balancer pools as well. Like some of the kind of things we were talking about today was, let's say you've got liquidity provided on a DEX, whether it's Pancake or whether it's Uniswap or Sushi, whatever. And whenever you provide liquidity, you get an LP token, right? A receipt for that liquidity. Now, there's potential there where you can actually take that LP token put it into a single pool on Ethereum or whatever chain the DEX is on, and then have single stake in L1X paired up cross-chain as a pair and receive fees for the swaps between the LP token and the L1X, giving that LP token additional utility and additional rewards. And there's so many unique things you could do. Like let's look at LSDs, right? If anyone knows what an LSD is, liquid staking derivative, where you can deposit ETH into Lido and you get ST ETH back. And then you could actually create a balancer pool of liquid staking derivative tokens, because there's multiple, and they have ETH in that balancer pool. And now have people be able to swap, sell their ETH, sell their stETH for ETH, use their ETH to buy stETH, all from that one balancer pool. But your liquid staking derivatives would not just be limited to Ethereum. They could be a mix of liquid staking derivatives across multiple chains. Also, because of liquid staking derivatives, you could then issue a BPT token from the liquid staking derivatives balancer pool, which would be compatible in something like EigenLayer. So now I have my stETH, I put it into the balancer pool, I get transaction fees for that, I still get my stETH rewards, and I get a balancer pool token that I can now put into something like EigenLayer and then earn extra rewards. There is a ton of different things. I know probably some people would understand, some people it might be a little confusing, but the main point here is that imagine that every blockchain is a country and they all have their own culinary delights, right? Now you can have a buffet of all different foods from all over the world in one place to create whatever you wanted within that balancer pool. And it really becomes quite interesting now that you can access multi-chains to create some really innovative financial products.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, right, it's just the fact that if these pools that we are actually deploying right now, they're going to be configurable and they're going to be used across the different projects. It also helps us, from the perspective that these kind of tokens, which would, like I went to the balancer pool and I see a wrapped version of stETH on the balancer pool, right? Now, a lot of this kind of liquidity where these tokens are not actively tradable, right? But somehow people have deposited them as a form of liquidity. We can bring these kind of tokens back to life for trading. Because if you went to the balancer pool and you took the BPT tokens and deposited into the LP of L1X app, or let's say the balancer pool that we have, you could actually take the value of that and use that for swaps across pools as well. So it kind of brings out the liquidity or trading that can happen from these kind of pools.
And even for projects, like if you think about what the balancer pool, so if, really what happens is, let's say the balancer pool has tokens from other chains within the balancer pool. That liquidity still sits on the native chain. And what's happening is, once that liquidity goes into the native chain and sits on the native chain, almost like a receipt of that liquidity value is issued on L1X to be added to the balancer pool, right? But the value itself is still derived, because of crosstalk can go cross chain to maintain the value of the balancer pool. It can always basically link to the native chain coin to derive its value, right? So native liquidity sits on the native chain and gives us all these receipt values that we can start to really get innovative with in terms of creating balancer pools, innovative liquidity pairs. Will the multi-chain balancer will get to a stage where we will allow projects, users to create their own pools?
Yeah. We would. And the only thing is, these kind of technologies are so new, so that we we want to step out the development for this, right?
Yeah.
But I do believe that by next month sometime, we should be in a position to take the same tools and give it to the users as well, right? So let's see, but we will definitely take it to the users. Just on that, I just want to try it out one more time if the swaps actually work on L1X app, right? Let's try it. Because I'm a bit, I want to make sure that this thing works because I built it, so it's a little bit okay. Yeah. All right, so let's say we have this token here. All right, so let's transfer some to this address. Let's transfer some BSC USDT or BSC USDC. All right, let's transfer some. Yep. All right. Worked. So if you go back here, there you go. So there are times where these things can, because of the network congestion, it can be a problem. But again, let's try it again, right? So let's say BSC USDC to be transferred to this account here. All right, let's copy this. Yeah, good. Yeah. Good. Perfect. Now, in MetaMask, you might face a little bit of a problem over here, but you'll be able to see your tokens. So if you face problems sending tokens from MetaMask, use your X wallet, but within 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours, we will solve the MetaMask thing as well. Because the only problem we face with MetaMask is the time MetaMask actually goes to your network to query it. And I don't know what algorithm they use, but they're very slow. So let's say I try to send it to someone. Yeah, there you go. It's working. Okay, this is very interesting. Can you see the gas fees? Are you able to see the gas fee?
Yes.
Yeah, have a look at the gas fees here. It's 0.40 and 21 L1X. That's for the L1X EVM transfer, right? So these kind of gas fees, there you go, done. I go to the other one. I should be able to see those tokens as well. I think it should be available with the other tokens. Yes, there you go. Over here. Let me try another one just to make sure that it works, right? Let's transfer from here to the other place. Yeah, works. X wallet. Just use the X wallet until if you have a problem with MetaMask, use the X wallet, right?
So with that gas fee, just kind of going through that gas fee that you just displayed, even at L1X value at $1, that gas fee is 0.002 of a cent. Yeah. And so at $10, that's 0.02 of a cent. At $100 L1X value, that's 0.2 of a cent. Like that's or even 2 cents. Yeah.
Yeah. It's for the last 2 weeks because I was integrating MetaMask as well, right? So certain times, the networks, like if people throw in transaction, because one transaction for the balancer is like 8 transactions, if you think about it, internal transactions happening, right? So if there are 100 users, there's like 800 transactions at once, right? So although people may say that it's like 100,000 transactions a second, right? But that's literally like 10,000 transactions multiplied into 10 sub transactions, right? In our case, we are not aiming for sub transactions to be 100,000. It's actual transactions to be 100,000. And the fees that you see there, those fees were sending the tokens, but these tokens are in the balancer, right? So these are not just any ERC20 token. This actually has to even update the registry in the balancer that the tokens have been transferred. And even with that, the fees are so less. So as I mentioned previously, the state managers that are responsible to do what they do, right? Based on that, we have made sure that these transactions remain cheap. But I sincerely believe we need more nodes, right? Because as you saw today, in 5 minutes, what happened that the transactions processed and 5 minutes ago it couldn't process. And this is good it happened because it shows that these kind of AMAs are not a setup, right? It's actually live. So if it happened within 5 minutes, we need to be able to distribute this load across the nodes. And the way our nodes are built is L1X EVM nodes will be different, L1X VM nodes will be different, and they can cross communicate. So there is no gap, there is no latency, or as little as possible latency when these transactions happen with the same cost. I think Matthew's stuck. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, no, that's so basically we're talking extremely cheap gas fees, extremely fast, and can connect to any chain. Like that,
Yeah.
And it's just now about building, evolving that, building that out, and just really, obviously testing, building out, but basically the tech and the infrastructure is there to create a it's funny, I saw someone in the community was using a hashtag for us, saying hashtag the God chain, which I thought quite funny. But really, with something that can deliver 100,000 transactions per second at a fraction of a cent transaction fee in lightning fast speed that can connect to any chain, that is where we're heading.
Yeah, and 100%. And I think because the opportunity for transactions also increase with the ability to actually use the swaps in there, right? The transaction number will be higher, right? 100%. Now, one of the person who over here mentioned that it could be less fees for the nodes, but if you think about it, as I mentioned previously, there are only that many applications that get adopted on a single chain, right? Now, if a node with L1X EVM, is installed, L1X EVM is not only bothered about the transactions happening on L1X protocol, but it's the cross-chain infrastructure that also comes through. So the power of the L1X EVM node is actually equal to all the nodes that go through L1X EVM at the same time. So your multiplier is much larger.
Basically, our potential pool of transactions is amplified by the fact that transactions are not restricted to the native chain, or transactions that are, it's transactions on a native chain. However, transactions can facilitate cross-chain swaps. When I'm sending smart contract logic cross-chain, let's say two smart contracts want to talk to each other. That process is similar to a transaction. I mean, that's a transaction happening between those two chains, or what is that?
Yeah. So internally, this is like a cross contract call that happens that we do, and it's not exactly a transaction, but it's like a cross contract state update. So because your transaction hash is only one, right? Even though there are multiple transactions submitted one after the other. But at the same time, because we have two different VMs, interacting with each other, we have bundled that into a single transaction, master transaction. So at all point in time, the L1X VM, the entry point for execution is L1X VM. If the entry point of execution is L1X EVM, they are both responsible to generate transaction hashes and keep that in sync. So there is no deadlock in terms of who is to do this.
Perfect. I mean, so we can still, and I think that's important. So basically, we can still remain extremely cheap with smart contracts talking to each other cross-chain. So that can be still highly cost-effective to be able to connect smart contracts cross-chain. That's important. Okay.
Yeah, and if you think about it, what we just saw, right, is taking now think about it this way, right? Taking your contract on Ethereum, taking contract or taking an Oracle system that passes information, validates it, sends it to L1X VM. L1X VM interacts with L1X EVM, updates the registry. So if you see this flow that we have actually established, it proves the Xtalk infrastructure, including the validation and broadcasting through the node, Xtalk node or the listener node, L1X full validator node interacting with L1X VM and EVM and updating the state and sending it back through the wallet SDK. So this cycle actually proves the validation of the complete technology, right? To build this without having Xtalk and L1X VM, it's going to be crazy because can you imagine the number of contracts you will have to deploy, the number of bridges you will have to build? To do this, like, it's crazy. And I'm actually even surprised, to be honest, that we built this infrastructure, built the application on the infrastructure, and integrated the L1X wallet and MetaMask wallet at the same time. Usually these are done in like 6 months, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year protocol, 1 year application, 1 year this. So these three things happened at the same time. So now anyone wanting to come and build with us, we have actually, being the founders of the protocol itself, we know how best to build the application safe and secure. There is no one else who can build it as safe as us. We get that. But because we are pushing the boundaries here and we know it's secure, any other application builders coming and trying to build something, now they understand how the whole infrastructure works. So the application build-up process is also going to be faster.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think the use cases now with the cross-chain swaps, the multi-chain balancer pool, showcasing that crosstalk technology, where there's actual users can use the technology and there's demonstration there. I think it's a powerful move for, it's now usable through the swaps, through the multi-chain balancer, because when people are, and I think your diagram showed this, when people are depositing USDT into the balancer pool, that USDT is deposited on the native chain, right? And then the liquidity sits there to on the value of the native chain, and then the receipt is created. So that's I
think the only next call to action for us basically is, for the adoption phase, is increasing the nodes, right? Without that, what we face today, we're going to face that. And I think this is what I think. Even if we, let's say, because there are like the swap, the balancer, right? There are a few applications deployed on this. The space card, the Galaxy card is deployed on a few nodes that are currently running. Even if we increment this by a factor of, let's say, 5, it can handle more traffic coming in because the division of work will be done in that way. Because right now we've got one node executing the whole infrastructure. So if there are more nodes, that node is responsible exclusively for that infrastructure. So it can accommodate a larger transaction base.
to basically bring on the nodes.
Yeah, we definitely need the nodes, to make sure that the transactions are processed quick.
Is that an opportunity for sneaky alpha about nodes? Is that what this is?
Well, next month onwards. Yeah.
Should we jump in? Do you want to jump into some Q&A, or is there anything else you want to go through, Kevin, in terms of this?
No, I think I demonstrated enough.
Appreciate
capacity to do more. Yeah.
As you can imagine, some of the questions I see coming through from the community are mostly related to when node. I think that's a pretty hot topic, obviously. Is there any further information there? I know obviously we've got things coming along at certain times in certain places so that everything works best as possible. Is there anything we can share around that at this stage, or that's a coming soon button?
Yeah. So next month, probably in the in between the third and the fourth week sometime, we are going to release on how you can start hosting your own nodes, because that is a sense of urgency for us right now. So we have to do that if we want the transactions to increase. So I would say just keep an eye on the announcement. Probably this time next month we will definitely have people starting to host their nodes.
And also with that, I think we also talked about giving them some sort of information about how to host a node, equipment, maybe approximation of cost to host a node, giving people an idea of rewards when hosting a node, just so everyone can see that and go, okay, here's the full picture. Here's how I'll host it. Here's what I need to host it. Here's how I host it. Here's costs, approximate costs to host it. And here's the rewards related to hosting. And so that gives like the full kind of spectrum of, okay, now I know what node hosting is and the benefits to it.
Yeah, we're coming up with this, with the experts and the node hosting, we are updating both of them, right? So we're coming up with a simpler interface where, you can put in your node and it will kind of even give you a calculation based on your rewards you're going to earn and the hardware cost and all those things, and how to get started with that as well.
Awesome.
Okay, so I've got I'm catching some questions as well as you, Joe. I'll just see one that I've just gone to the top. So I had one from Chaos77 when we were showing the MetaMask wallet. It's saying that's surprising. I can do everything with MetaMask. No need for L1X wallet now? Question. So I would say, and just jump in here, Kevin, if this isn't correct, but basically now what you can do everything you're already doing with MetaMask, but now you can integrate the L1X network and be able to have your coins or any tokens on the L1X network in the MetaMask wallet. Where the X wallet, and where the X wallet becomes a little bit more unique is that the X wallet will allow you to hold coins from any chain we're connected to, where MetaMask is EVM compatible and is restricted to those tokens that are compatible to that.
Yeah, and I think that was important to do because we are not a wallet company. Like, we don't want to make wallets. We have the wallet so that your MetaMask doesn't have Solana or Bitcoin, so that even Solana and Bitcoin could be there in the X wallet, so that you don't have to move between wallets. That was the idea. But we have noticed that people don't want to maintain multiple different wallets for multiple different things anyways. So as much as possible to reduce your movement from one wallet to the other, you can do everything with MetaMask. Even the L1X contract addresses will be recognized, right? Only for tokens that, as Matthew mentioned, that are not there in MetaMask, you can use the X wallet.
And then the X wallet, does that become then the X wallet and that functionality to hold tokens from any chain we're connected to? Is the plan there then to also kind of open source that wallet so people can actually build out, like someone like a Trust Wallet could access that technology and now do that in Trust Wallet, or someone who wanted a wallet could now use that technology to add that function to their own wallet?
We can definitely try to, first see if there are partners who can take up the wallet themselves and push it. But open sourcing it would be great. But the only problem with open sourcing it is you don't want more wallets to come up there, right? Because then developers will go and create their own set of wallets, creating more confusion around the users.
Yeah, right. So it's basically having the right partner there that can help develop that out in the X wallet. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. And with so the other question I had is TGE going to happen first or second half of March? So second half of March. I think the other one was, when do we host a node? Yes, I think we answered that one. Security testing around the balancer pool contracts. They're already being tried and tested because they're balancer contracts. They're the same contracts, so they've been battle tested for some time. What else can you see there, Joe?
I think it's mostly, aside from the comment that I look like a shiny turnip, which I think is quite funny. I think that's most of the questions. Let me just scroll on through the bottom here.
There's one from Oliver Clark. Why did L1X Foundation build the balancer? Wasn't the L1X going to build this, and why aren't they participating in the liquidity bootstrap? Yeah. I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, I think for anyone that's been in the L1X community, I think they've already mentioned that they're in a testing phase right now. So they're going through doing their testing in terms of testing out. They've got access, they're doing their testing, and once testing is complete, then they'll be ready to roll. That's the phase they're in.
Yeah, and again, I think we're not competing, right? I mean, they will be having certain pools, maybe that because you don't need such a lot of liquidity, right? I mean, the liquidity that we are going to accumulate is going to be more than enough for the swaps that can happen. So maybe they may open up pools that we don't have, but at the same time, as I mentioned previously, we, being the founders of the protocol, know best how to build the most complex application. So that's why we push the boundary. And while we were doing this, even Hashlock coming and auditing it out helps us understand that while building something like this, making sure that each and every points are covered up, because at times even application builders and their solidity contracts get hacked. So I think it's good that we build this out so that we know exactly what the gaps were, and we filled up those gaps before we released it, right? So even from the security standpoint, I think it's better that we build it out. But anyways, I think they are testing it out right now, and I hope they have their own pools soon.
And ultimately, it's not for us as an infrastructure layer. While we're producing and building out these kind of use case applications, it's basically in this pre-TGE phase to be able to showcase the tech. And I think that's really important, right? Showcasing the tech before TGE, before launch. And with the DEX launching it at TGE, then the tech has already been used and it's already been tried, and users are using the tech. And so when when the DEX launches, and it's not our aim to be a DEX like that, we're more than happy to then move that over, right? But for us to then show the use case and show the tech prior to TGE while the DEX is testing, I think is really important, because we wouldn't be able to then increase the liquidity on the swaps. We wouldn't be able to then showcase a multi-chain balancer pool and then have that functionality where people can see it before TGE comes live. And then once TGE comes live, we can just give that over, which is for us. But to have a showcase, to have a use case and to be able to show the tech prior to TGE is really important. And I think I think that kind of rang true for people in the last AMA, where they could see us testing the swaps. Without that,
Yeah, and again, also to understand that the L1X app infrastructure is going to leverage the assets for the swaps. So for example, all the features coming out, it provides the ability for these assets that you have to actually be tradable, right? So not only are you going to make money from the swap revenue, but also application that needs the swap integrated within it, right? So these kind of areas as well, the swaps will be used from the balances liquidity.
Yeah. And then I'll just see a question here: when will the other chains opt Phantom integration? The integration is there. It's just the liquidity, right? It's the basically focusing on the chains that we have within the swaps now are there because that's where the liquidity's been placed. And so as the liquidity builds up, then we can start to have the liquidity on all of these chains that we're connected to. But that's why we're not seeing them on the swaps now.
Yeah. And I think, these other pools are required. Like we do definitely need like Avalanche, Arbitrum, Polygon, liquidity in there. But I feel that starting off with BSC and ETH is great because these are the top two chains that go back and forth in the swaps. And next month onwards, when we deploy this capital towards swap, I'm just excited to push that across.
Yeah. And why USDT, USDC is because they're the top two tokens that are currently represent like a large portion of the bridge volume that people are currently doing across bridges. And so we know that ETH, Binance, even through the usage of the L1X app, we've seen those two chains, and especially Binance, right, being used a lot, and USDT, USDC being predominant tokens. So that's where starting with those, where we know there's a demand for those chains and for those tokens for swapping, it makes it a no-brainer to start there.
Yeah. So I think this one is a good question. Do we need separate liquidity pools for each token pairs? We don't need separate pools with each token pairs, but we definitely need as single assets. So it can be like, for example, Polygon USDC, right? Or let's say Avalanche USDC. So you don't need, token pairs, but you definitely need them. But also to understand that you need a common denominator token to be able to swap from the balancer. So L1X USDC, L1X USDT, these things are great for us because if you want to go from, let's say, USDC Avalanche to USDC BSC, the balancer, the way the swaps work inside the balancer is that it finds the common token between these pools and lets that swap happens. And in this case, it's L1X. So it increases the number of swaps that will actually happen.
Yeah, basically how that works is that if you've got a pair, a USDT L1X, and you want to swap your USDT, as you said, for USDC on another chain, that there has to be, as you say, a common connector coin between those two, right? So the swap can go USDC L1X and then L1X into the USDT from the other chain. So that's connecting that swap train or that swap pathway up to make that happen.
That's right.
Because without that, you'd be limited to be only swap to be able to like sell USDC for L1X if there was no then L1X USDT to then connect you through. So yeah. Anything else there, Joe, that you can see?
I think not so much. I think that one's sort of been answered previous. This one, I think we're reasonably set on from Anth, which was, are we going to do the TG with a centralized exchange as well?
Yeah. I think the last question here is the team considering investing their goods longer because they'll own 50% of the circulating supply after 2.5 years. That's actually not the ratio of circulating supply. So the circulating supply after 2.5 years, which I think is August, is probably 600 and something million. So at best, I think it'd be like 35%. But you want the team still holding 35% because it means they haven't sold anything.
Yeah. So there's another from Dharamveer. I think I spoke to him on Discord as well. If I don't answer his question, he'll be unhappy. What's that? What will happen to our multi-chain staking when L1X goes live with their liquidity pool? Yeah, I think, I don't look at it this way. I look at it like first of all, the L1X guys may not even have, the same pools, right? We don't know. And even if they have the same pools, the main swaps over here are routed through the balancer pool that we have currently hosted, right? So it wouldn't make sense to have the same asset pool again, right? Unless you join it into the same pool. So that's number one, most logical thing. But number two, maybe they come up with, some other DeFi kind of product that is not the same as this. I don't know. But our multi-chain balancer pool, is here to provide liquidity for the swaps that are going to happen. Even the widget iframe that we want to build and give it out, it will be using the multi-chain balancer swap that you are currently depositing into, right? So that's something that the L1X guys probably will answer in their AMA as to what is the tokens that they are coming up with and what is the reward ratio over there. But yeah.
No, I think this is the. Sorry, go on.
No, you're just reading DD's last question about.
Yeah, I was just going to say that had sort of previously been answered with the docs we've got coming out. We'll answer all those questions. How to set it up, what it'll cost, what the rewards distribution are. So that's the coming in the node rollout package. That's correct.
Yeah. So what we're looking to do is we want to time the experts and the node information at the same time, because obviously experts is a decision you're making also for a node NFT. So having the node information out prior to choosing your experts tier can also give you a lot of good information on the nodes, because obviously you can unlock a node on gold and platinum. And so in that, you'll be able to see the rewards for full validator nodes, event listener nodes. You'll be able to see approximated kind of hosting costs. We're just going to give you approximation because obviously it varies, but approximation at least will give you an idea, right? There's so many variables, but also the equipment. So as much information as possible, so you know exactly what you're doing with the nodes and by making a decision to host a node.
Yeah, and also at the same time, right? Today we saw how badly we need those nodes, right? So we definitely need to create strategies around, how we can get more people to opt for these nodes, number one. And number two, there will also be bonus structures around these nodes. So the best way to think about the reward structure is if there is, like, let's say whatever X is going through as a transaction fee, 50% at this moment will be going to the full validator nodes anyways, right? Because that was the one. Now the mobile validator nodes, while they are coming out, the event listener nodes will definitely get a certain part of it, right, for bringing in the data and validating it. But yeah, I would say the ratio would be around at least like 5:1. So if you get, let's say, 50 cents as a full validator node, you'll only be getting 10 cents as the event listener node. That will be the ratio. But then there is bonus on top of that as well, right? So we'll come up with the node NF, maybe opting the node program as well by the end of the month, so that we have enough nodes to push this as well.
And also, if anyone's looked in the tokenomics in terms of the distribution of the treasury pool allocations, right? So there's things in there like a validator pool within the treasury allocation. And what the validator pool does, it allows for adoption to build up and transaction fees to build, but also allows from this validator pool, we can reward L1X coins from the validator pool as transactions are building up and feeding through to the nodes, so that the node rewards can be supplemented by the validator pool, which is a common thing, right? And the validator pool itself has a vests out over 5 years. So there's a 5-year runway of validator pool rewards to supplement node hosting as adoption grows and transactions grow and are distributed to the nodes. So it really kind of creates that adoption buffer, which I think is really important, where needed. Another question here I've got from Didi. What features are likely to be included in the iframe widget, like the swap widget?
Yeah. So the current X-Stock swap that you see over there, it's got the tokens that we have the liquidity for. So the way we are, going to take this out is the ones that are implementing this I widget will have, two options mainly. One is adding their own commission on top of it, right? So that they also get something out, and they use the liquidity pool from the multi-chain balancer that we currently have. And the number two is configuring their own tokens and adding it. So if they have their own token that they want to deploy, they'll be able to do that, and then the same ones will be available in the swap as well. So there are two angles that I see the I widget from. One is simple copy paste it, right, and put your percentage. And the second one is adding your own liquidity tokens in there and facilitating the swaps between them using that I widget.
And a project actually doesn't need to implement the I widget to actually add their own liquidity into the cross chain, right? They can actually.
That's right.
Any project can add their liquidity, and now that project liquidity becomes accessible cross chain.
That's right.
Question here from DD: what happens if the nodes are not sold out? I think we had a ton of demand before, right? Yeah.
I think we'll definitely come up with a node program so that people can go and opt into the node, like buy the node, right? But event listener nodes, I'm not too worried about because they were sold out. I am worried about the full validator node. It worries me because there were still, I think, 200 left of the 300, right? So there were only and not everyone is going to go and host. So if you remove that percentage, I think it's pretty less. So that's why we have added more full validator nodes so that we can release a program where people can come and actually buy these full validator nodes.
Question here: when can we expect the L1X's universal gas fee?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that we can pick it up sometime in April or May, because for the next, until March, we have to focus on the consensus and X-Stock before we open source the code completely, right? Hashlock is auditing it anyways, but before we open source it out. So next month, I'm going to focus on X-Stock and consensus, but by the end of this month, I'm going to finish the balancer swap, exit pool, and hopefully the I widget. Right? So these three are for this month, next month, consensus, X-Stock, and then we can pick it up maybe in May, so that at least people can come and start building with us, hassle-free.
Will the ability to add my liquidity to crosstalk, this is my question, my ability to add my liquidity to crosstalk, that'll be out before the widget, right? When will that ability be available for a project to add its liquidity into the crosstalk?
Yeah, that will definitely happen sometime in next month. So we will make the balancer configurable by the projects, so they can host their own pools. Now, do we need to take it out to the people? Maybe not, but at least the projects will be able to start hosting their liquidity pools from the coming month onwards. So how you go on balancer and create the pool? But again, ours is like 10 times more complex because there are so many moving parts to it, right? So slowly we can release that out once this thing 100% is tested as well. So that's why we have just released join. Then we will do the swap and exit. So this sequence helps us to make sure that this form of technology is tested along the journey as well.
Mm-hmm. A question from Kikundi Crypto. Will Solana tokens also be integrated into the widget?
100%. Next month, we will have Solana and Bitcoin integrated next month.
Excellent. Roadmap for adding chains. I think we've already talked about Solana. We've talked about Bitcoin, and then I suppose it's really. I know we had a poll the other day which had Tron in it. I think for when you're looking at connecting chains, the ability is there to connect any chain, but really what's going to be the best for the protocol, the community, the user, right? Like Tron. Tron chain might be an option because it's got a ton of liquidity on there as a chain. Bitcoin's a no-brainer. Solana, as a smart contract EVM chain and a growing ecosystem, that's a no-brainer as well. And it also showcases EVM to non-EVM. So I suppose it all comes down to really where is the best ROI going to be for the protocol and the user to connect to.
Actually, good that you bring that up, because I have something to show. I actually forgot to show that. So I'll leave this link over here. So we have done analysis of like major pools in Balancer, right? And their top 10 pools in the networks. Now, if you look at Avalanche, Arbitrum, Ethereum, Optimism, Polygon, all of them, you see the volume to TVL ratio and the fees to volume ratio, right? It's very low. Like, if you think about it, like, let's say, let's take, fees to volume. Okay. Certain one like 680,000 dollars worth of movement and only $35 in fees, right? 158,000, only $15 in fees. So it's pretty low in terms of how these fees are put up over here as well. Now, what can be done is certain tokens are hard to swap. Like Tron is not available on any DEX. Like I haven't seen Tron on any DEX, right? But there is a lot of volume going on. So if we have Tron in there, then I think it allows us to charge a little premium, because it doesn't have to be like exorbitantly high. It can be less than the exchanges, right? So that it motivates the people to do it from here. But what it does is it adds to the adoption process. I think that is how, like, these areas where nobody's trying to focus on, we can actually piggy ride on these kind of tokens to do that. That's why in my poll, I had Tron in there as well. And not a lot of people chose Tron. I was surprised by it, right? But I think these kind of tokens, there are certain set of community members like Tron. Imagine the community of Tron, right? They are not having any DEX that they can swap back and forth with. So if we have Tron, these community members automatically will, know about us. I think you're muted, Matthew.
Classic.
What about a chain like Cardano? Like Cardano is can we connect to a Cardano? Can we connect to a NEAR?
We could, like the Xtalk infrastructure is built so modular, like we could connect to any chain. It's just a question of liquidity and resources at disposal, right? And what we want to push in this timeline. Because what we don't want to do is, we don't want to overconnect and not have liquidity going. So the next chain has to be selected very smartly. Like the reason we selected Solana and Bitcoin is because if we integrate Bitcoin, I'm saying this as the founder, not a lot of people are going to trust you straight away, right? Like I'm not giving you my Bitcoin, like, kind of thing. But Solana, on the other hand, there are exchanges like Radium and there are so many other ones. But having Solana interop not only proves the validation of the technology, but also solves a real world use case. Because people want to swap into Solana's USDC and go to Radium and stake it, because the APR on Radium for Solana stable is much higher than what you would get on Aave for Ethereum, for example. So that is the time these swaps will be used.
Mm. Would it ever get to a point, and I suppose it depends on what we would need to reveal, right? But would it ever get to a point where a chain, if it met or a project or a team, external team, if they met requirements of liquidity and all these things, that they could connect themselves as a chain, or does that kind of reveal too much of the secret sauce?
No, I think once this is open source, right, we want people to come and connect with it as well. But at the same time, like the multi-chain balancer is a next step for the L1X community. Like we have taken a stride forward. Like that is a major stride because no one in the Web3 space has ever built something like that. Like coming up with a product that somebody has built, it's going to work, but then it's a whole angle of adoption only. But in our case, we have taken the step forward in terms of what interoperability actually even means, right? So when this is demonstrated and the other chains look at it, these are the times when they will know that, okay, let's connect with it now, because we don't want to miss users. Nobody wants to miss a market.
I think that's
someone is asking the L1X developers, how many developers is L1X? Okay, so all right, the core developers, like core guys, on the infrastructure. I'm not talking about guys who actually helped integrate the balancer pool on L1Xapp.com. I'm talking about core infrastructures. There were 14 of them, and it came to a point where certain of them were like, these core developers, they have an ideology, like this is the way we need to process this or move this, right? And I am more towards, okay, I want to build innovative stuff, but at the same time, make sure the existing stuff works, right? Because without that, what's the point of keeping on innovating? I had to fire 6 developers because of that. And it was one call, one meeting, and it happened. So now there are 8 instead of 14.
And what other questions have we got here then? I mean, I'll give developing a crack, man. If you want a 9th.
What's that? No, I think the best thing that I would say is that the community members can please go and smash the multi-chain balancer pool and bring up as many problems as you can. So because the faster you bring up those problems, the faster we can solve it. And the faster we solve it, the faster the road to adoption, right? Because this has never been built before. Like nobody knows what's going to go wrong here, right? Nobody, not even Microsoft could put a hand on their heart and say that, because it's never done before. So just stress test this out and send as many errors as you can so we can keep solving them.
Yeah, I think that's good to remember from everybody, right? Like it is brand new. A lot of this is cutting edge, and it's sort of like this is working from this angle, and then you'll test some different stuff. You'll test how that works this way, and maybe it comes up that this doesn't work the way that one person thought it would. But the sooner we get that feedback through the tickets, through back to the team, obviously the sooner we can answer these things as well, and obviously get a fix for it. I think from what I can see, that's most of the questions. Matt, do you see any more from your end?
No, I don't. I just add, that's the cool thing about blockchain and crypto communities, right? They're so close to the project. I mean, where else do you get to have an intimate well, not intimate, but a very close connection to the project and what's being built, and an insight like this, like in the Web2 world, right? And I think that's quite a cool thing about the journey for blockchain and crypto, is that the community can actually go on that journey with projects, and it's quite a unique experience, I think, that you get in blockchain and crypto that you may not get anywhere else. And part of the community value is to test and use and say, hey, this user experience, I like this, or I think, hey, this would be good if this was there, and it helps us evolve in terms of what the offering is and how the user experiences it. So I wish Cody was here, because he'd probably go into like a half an hour rant on user experience.
Yeah. And I think we'll be opening up the swap transactions as well. So basically, we want to show the community, the adoption of the swaps as well. Like, I checked the numbers, the swaps have increased since the time we started testing it out, right? So that's good to know. And we'll open up the Explorer for the swap, so you can see all the swaps going through as well, right? Like any other blockchain. So you'll know that all the liquidity that you are putting in is actually going to be used for the swaps to be demonstrated and to be used in real life.
Awesome. So I think that's most of the questions I see. I think we look to close that out and let you guys maybe get some rest or get back to coding. I know Kevin loves to burn the midnight oil and continuously code. So any closing statements from you guys, I guess, before we head off?
Look, for me, I think we're at quite an exciting time, because now we're starting to see the use case of the technology starting to come out, right? We're seeing the swaps, we're seeing the multi-chain balancer pool phase 1, right? And we're starting to see how this all kind of connects. So it's a really exciting time to see that. And what's even more exciting about it, it's only just started, right? I mean, this is then the next use case. How does gaming, use L1X? How does lending and borrowing now use multi-chain, cross-chain communication? How do NFTs now use it? And I think this is the start of now seeing these innovative use cases that you either improve the experience because it's, for example, faster, cheaper, or add a new experience when we add liquidity for Solana and you can swap native BNB with native Solana, right? So, really is, and what I think the community can take real confidence in is that the tech is there. We can see it in the swaps. We now see it in the balancer pool. The tech, the underlying, which is the most important layer, right? Because without that layer, none of the applications can have these features. So the most important layer is there. I mean, there's growth and evolution to happen. Absolutely. There's, we're talking about increasing nodes, we're doing all these things, but the core, the secret sauce is there. And I think that's what the community can get really excited about.
I think it's great because if you think about it, the community, the development, operations, marketing team, right, and the tech validation to it, we haven't cut corners in anything. If you think about it, like when we decided to actually build the balancer pool, we could have easily built a simple product, that shows certain validation, but taking the most extreme product and demonstrating that on the tech in the very first version of it, I think that's something that you rarely get to see. But I also believe that we have reversed the cycle of how applications are supposed to be built on infrastructure, because we are not going to get adoption in the normal way. So what's the other way then to receive that same adoption with limited resources, right? And that's why I think it's great to have everyone on the same page and making sure that as a community, myself being a part of it, everything that we see right now, understanding that the adoption is going to come because there is no one else that does what kind of things that we do. And once this thing starts sticking up that, okay, this is how things are supposed to be done, the scale of that is, compounding, right? So hang in there, right? Hang in there. Things will improvise and we are going to get there. We started this to take it there and we will get there. Roadblocks, problems are going to be there. And I want them to be there because without that, we don't know if decisions are being made. Mistakes are going to be there. So we know decisions are being made, right? So it's great to have mistakes, solve them and move on. And we've got a great community, everyone's been, they go off the cliff sometimes, but overall, I think it's a great experience for me on Discord.
Don't we all sometimes? I mean, it's a journey, right? It's a journey and we're all on it together.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, as the community, it's, you're going to have, to be honest with you guys, you're going to have frustrations, you're going to have elation, you're going to have all these things. But I see it as a adoption will almost go, it'll kind of go like this, and then they'll hit a point and it'll go boom, right? Because it'll be that point where there's that catalyst that everyone gets it, right? And whether that's something like an unveil moving on to L1X or an existing project or a brand new innovative project that is using the technology, whatever that is, I see it like that. So on this trajectory, I'm glad we're here. As community members, you're part of this part before it goes like that.
Yeah. And just before I forget, on Friday, I think the team, I may not be there, but the team is going to demonstrate the Space CMS system. So the version 2 of it as well. So if the community wants to know, we have divided the teams in such a way that certain people focus on certain things, but then there is a team focusing on DeFi mainly. So please be there on Friday for the Space CMS as well. You will also get to see over there where these cards become NFTs and how these NFTs will be used in the future for multi-chain, access management. So that's a whole different level of interoperability in demonstration.
Awesome. So everybody needs to be there Friday because obviously new stuff, more alpha, new stuff. I think from my perspective as well, what's written on the first block, right? Once imagined, now proven. And I think that continues to resonate with every step along the way. Something else comes to mind where it goes, well, that doesn't exist. We'll build that. We'll put that in. It's the next step of what's the innovation from here? What's the next thing from the tech perspective, from the community perspective, from the connection perspective to the rest of the ecosystem? It didn't just stop at the first block with that imagine and then prove. I think that's a resonance throughout the journey the whole way. And I just think it's exactly as it's been said, perfect time to be here, to be a part of this community, knowing that we're on the up from here. So let's close that out, otherwise we're here all night. But
just one thing, right? You just gave me an idea.
One more.
Yeah, one more thing. When the Node NFTs come out, should we have the image on the Node NFTs, the image from Once Imagined, Now Proven, that would be kind of cool because you're hosting a node, right? You're part of that. I don't know. That could be quite cool as the Node NFT image.
We should definitely consider something like that. These NFTs are great for multi-chain thing. Definitely something like that. But next week we'll be back. Maybe I don't know what we need to demonstrate more, but next week we'll be back with. I'm sure we'll find something to demonstrate, right? I'm sure, right? And answer all your questions as well. So I think looking forward to the next week's session as well. And if you guys think that you love the Streamyard and the live demonstrations, please, go to Discord, give a thumbs up in the chat, and just tell us how much you liked it, right? Or what can we do to improvise?
Yeah, feedback always helps, guys. That's really important. If nobody says anything, nobody knows. So if there's stuff that you really do like, let us know. If there's stuff that you don't like, let us know. Either way, just let us know. So that way we can keep that open communication. Obviously, we can all elevate together. But let's wrap that now. Really good session for everybody. Once again, thanks to the community for being here. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Matthew, for being online. Obviously, we appreciate having that real connection, like you said, to the community. You don't get this anywhere else. Like, you don't get this in Web 2. You don't get this in even standard company structure where you can just have a back and forth communication, I guess, pathway where community members can just throw up questions and get them answered. So, we really appreciate that from the community point of view, to be able to have that real throughput of where we're at, how things going. So, once again, thanks to you guys for jumping on, and we'll wrap that there. Have an amazing night, everyone, or morning, or whatever, wherever you are. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.